Hello everybody. I saw one of these, I bought one of these, I thought I can't not video one of these. Something like this will probably never happen ever again. Well, not for this particular model anyway. I saw one of these on eBay and I bought one, and as soon as I opened it I thought, A, I'll have to get a load more because I love them, and B, I'll have to review one because they're too rare and I've never seen anything like it before in my life. Today's item to view, item of interest, is this. It is, I want it perfectly in shot, which I can't do. Oh yeah, we can. It is a Duotector NJF4089 passive infrared and microwave motion detector. Now, these are new old stock. Someone is selling them on eBay as new old stock, and they've got about 11, I think. I don't know how many they've got now because I've bought a few because I love them. So I got the first one. I thought I'll have to order more of these. They're going for $8.99 and I think $2.99 postage. But I put an offer in for $6.99 and the offer was accepted. I thought that seems reasonable. Yes, so it is a Duotec motion sensor. The description didn't really describe the item. I think it's someone that's just found a load of them and they're selling them off cheaply. It just said new old stock motion detector, and that's what it is. Well, like I said, it's a passive infrared and microwave motion detector. It's one of the very first Duotec motion detectors ever invented. Well, I probably think it is, because, or I think it probably is, I should say, because I don't remember there being too many Duotec motion detectors in the 80s. I know there was like the commercial ones, I forget the brand that made them. They stuck out, they were brown and beige, and they were on a massive arm, and they had a few LEDs at the bottom. This is smaller than this, well, smaller than one of them, but that's the only thing I've seen ever like this, or from that time period. Those Duotecs I was talking about were available, I think, the late 70s to late 80s, somewhere around then, and then things started getting smaller. But one of the main reasons I wanted to review this was because it said in the instructions it's designed for domestic dwellings, so houses and small businesses, and honest to God, I have never seen one of these in anybody's house before, and I don't think I ever will. Well, I won't now, obviously, because they don't make them anymore, but not even then. I don't think you would have seen one of these, because I'll tell you now, they are absolutely massive. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to video one of these. I just couldn't imagine having this on your wall nowadays. I mean, compared to, I don't have a PIR. Well, I don't have a loose PIR on this desk. I've got loads of stuff everywhere lately. But no, I don't have an old PIR to compare it with. But even the old big bulky 80s PIRs are small compared to this. So enough talking. Let's get into it. Just says on the top, Duotector NJF4089, which is presumably the model. Duotector indoor pulse operating passive infrared and microwave motion detector NJF4089, New Japan Radio Company Limited, JRC, made in Japan. Right, so I thought when I bought one, the box would be bigger than the PIR, but the box is nearly the same size as the, I shouldn't say PIR, motion detector, because it's Duotec, but it's nearly the same size as the box. It's ridiculously massive, and I couldn't even see on the eBay listing how big it was. It reminded me, I used to have, when I moved into this house, there was, in the lounge in the back room, there was Raycall Gardall PIRs. I can't remember the model, something 45s. And they were like this sort of shape. Post in the comments if you know what Raycall Gardle PIR I'm talking about. I can't remember the model of it, but I like them PIRs and I thought they were great. And this looked like them, so I thought, well, I'll give one of these a try, and I did not expect this. So anyway, in the box you get a piece of cardboard, not very interesting. The instructions, Duotector. I'll just move that massive thing to the side whilst I show you the instructions. I'm not going to get them all in camera, but it just basically tells you how to install the thing. I've got a new phone and I think the camera quality is a bit better, so I don't know if you'll be able to pause this and read any of it. Double-sided. There's a picture of the PIR. Some more writing for you there. Something else there. I'll see if I can post these or scan them in on one of the alarm communities if anybody's interested in that. Right, so God, I'm never going to fold them instructions back. Oh, there we go. Right. So you get, as well as the piece of cardboard, you get the instructions, which we'll just put to a side for now. Back to the main box. You get the motion detector itself, which is a massive beast. It really is. I mean, that's my hand, and it's nearly as big as my hand. It is flipping huge. I can't describe how big it is, because cameras don't always get things like that, do they? It is massive. I didn't think on the eBay listing it would be as big as this. No. Because I like the old detectors, I thought, well, I'll get one and I'll put it in my room, because I don't really want any... Well, actually, my parents probably don't want any dated detectors anywhere else in the house, but I thought for my room, because it looks like the old Raycall Gardle that I used to like, I'll put one of these in. And as soon as it arrived, I was pleasantly surprised, because I think it's very interesting, but I knew straight away I couldn't put that in my room, because even for me, by my standards, I'll have anything up, because I love all the old alarm equipment. This is just too big. It really is. Not even I would have this up in my house. Anyway, there it is. It comes in a little protective bag, and there's just a bit of packing there in the box. And with that packing, you get the mounting screws. Well, I don't know whether they are the mounting screws or the screws that hold the back plate to it, because it comes in 3 parts. Here's the back plate anyway. It's not screwed to it, it just rests on it in the box. So I think 2 of them screws go in those holes there, which hold the back plate on, because they line up to that there. Anyway, here it is. I think that's probably the PIR part there, that massive lens. And unlike most Duotechs, well, in the 80s, things did look quite different to a modern conventional PIR. I mean, nowadays you get all these colour changing LEDs in them that are green, amber and red, and I know you can get a few PIRs that just have a red blinking alarm LED, but they're usually behind the lens. In the 80s, what you usually got was a red alarm LED, basically like this. You just got the LED sticking out from the casing, the LED itself, and that would just come on when motion was detected. And I like that method, because I don't really like the LEDs when they're behind the lens, because at night, well, it doesn't bother me, but it bothers other people, and if I'm doing an install, it's wary in my mind. If the LED is behind the lens at night, the whole lens lights up red, and it's really noticeable. And most people don't want attention drawn to things like a PIR in the house. They want them to sit discreetly in the corner, which is why I thought it was always, well, you couldn't have this particular one sitting discreetly in the corner. You couldn't have this sitting discreetly anywhere. But I like the style it uses for the LED alarm indicator. What I think's best is just to have a full-sized LED just drilled through the casing, and that just comes on when motion's detected. It's a lot better than having something behind the lens or a green and amber and red colour changing LED. Anyway, so that's the back plate that comes off there. It says in the instructions to mount it with up facing up, as you would presume, but I had a look into it, and you know, if you put it that way, it doesn't really affect it. It's still upside down. That still fits onto there, and you could still mount it. So I don't know what that's all about, but it does make sense, I suppose, just mounting it up. So there's a cable entry there, a cable entry there, and a cable entry there. And there's some pre-drilled holes at the side. Well, they're not drilled, are they? It's probably come out the mould looking like that, because if they were drilled, they'd be all little rough holes. No, that's probably just come out the mould looking like that, and then you put your screws in to mount it. I'll have to do a video powering it up and showing it you on, but I can't in this video because I could just go on forever about how big the thing is. Here's the back. And I was right, 1987, if it'll focus. It says there, this one was made in October 87. The serial number is A0186A. The frequency is 10.525 gigahertz. No idea what that means. Oh, it's got up there as well. NJF4089. Again, the model made in Japan. JRC, New Japan Radio Company Limited. Right, so I don't know if this comes apart in the same way as the Raycall Gardel PIR that I keep referring to. There seems to be, well, God, that one's unclipped, the top one, it's just this bottom. There we go. So that cover lifts off to reveal the insides. There's the cover. And that's the pre-drilled hole where the LED will shine through. I think there'll be a... Oh, is there? I can't really see. There's the lens, and that's just the back of it. Those little black circlip things probably hold the lens on. I can't see an LED disablement, and that is quite unusual. There's always usually a way to disable the LED, and I can't see one on this. Because you could usually turn them off if you were mounting this in a shop, for example, which is probably a prime place that this particular unit would be mounted because of the size and shape, well, not the shape, the size of it really. I can't imagine, even though it says in the instructions for domestic dwellings, I can't imagine too many of these being installed in houses because they are massive. But saying that, it was the 80s and it was all relatively new technology. But say like this was installed in a shop and you had the LED switched on because there's a way to turn them off so it doesn't blink. But if you had it switched on when it was mounted in the shop, if a robber was to come in the day, they could see where the detector would pick you up because they'd move around, the LED would come on and think, right, it gets me over here. And if they'd move somewhere else and the LED didn't come on, they think, right, it doesn't see me over here. So when I break in later, I'll break in through there, I'll walk around, because they'll know all this because the LED comes on and off as to where they are. And they break in such a way that this wouldn't see them and wouldn't trigger the alarm. Because they'd move and they think, right, gets me there because the LED's come on. Doesn't get me when I've moved over there, so we'll break in from over there. So in shops and commercial places, you usually disabled the LED so it wouldn't come on. So people who would go in prior to a break-in, burglars, wouldn't know where the motion detection areas were on this PIR or on any PIR. That's how it worked. You'd always disable the LED if you were mounting them somewhere like that. But for houses and things like that, or unless requested, you usually left the LED switched on. But I can't see on this how you would turn off the LED. This part is the microwave detection, and this sensitivity thing, I don't know if I can move it. Oh yeah, I can. You adjust that, and it adjusts the sensitivity of the microwave portion of the detector. And if it's at high sensitivity, which is right round there, it will detect with the microwave portion 15 meters away from where the detector is mounted. And if you turn the sensitivity down to low, the microwave detection will only reach 5 meters in front of the detector. So if I was mounting this in my shed, for example, my little work shed where I do loads of projects and things, which I never will because it's just too big. Well, actually, from my shed, I'm not as bothered, but I've got a PIR. Well, I've got a motion detector in there, so I don't need this. In like my shed, for example, you'd have that turned down to 5 meters in a small area. There's a tamper switch there, which is probably what tamper SW means. So there'll be probably a little arm on the cover. That little notch by the hole for the LED, that little piece of plastic sticking out, that will press against the tamper switch when the lid's on. And if someone removes the lid trying to tamper with it, the little arm will move out the way. It'll open the tamper switch, and it will send a tamper signal to the control panel to tell it someone's tampering with it, and you'll get a tamper alarm. I don't know how that works. Test point PIR. Test point micro, and presumably micro means microwave. Usual connections here: tamper, DC power, alarm. And what CNT was? CNT, you'd use 7-core cable or 8-core cable and just not use the 8th core. The CNT is something to do with this switch, and I read the instructions. I wouldn't have known this otherwise. And there's 2 modes this PIR can use. It can use normal, which is NOR, and it's in NOR at the minute. Or if you flick the switch up, it goes into LM mode, which is latching memory mode. And latching memory mode, providing that you had the cable and the wires all wired correctly in a very complex system. Well, it looks complex looking at the instructions. What it would do was, if you had 5 of these PIRs on one zone, which they don't recommend you do nowadays, they recommend just 1 PIR per zone, because if you've got a faulty PIR and there's about 5 of them on one zone, it's hard to tell which PIR is giving the false alarm. God, I've said PIR so many flipping times, I flipping can't say anymore. Anyway, so they don't recommend you do that nowadays, but it was common practice in the 80s to have about 5 PIRs on one zone. So the latching memory mode, which it's in now, was used with the appropriate wires. And what that would do was, if a detector, one of the 5 detectors on the zone triggered, it would cause the detector responsible for the alarm to keep the indicator lit up, the red LED indicator. So if you had 5 of these and one was faulty and you didn't know which one it is, to save you replacing them all or find out using a very difficult system, well, actually, I don't know what you'd use to find out. The only option I could see would be to replace all the detectors. What you would do is you'd have it set to latching memory if there were 5 on one zone. And then when you silence the alarm, you will be able to see which PIR or motion detector, it's a habit saying PIR, you'd be able to see which motion detector was responsible for causing the alarm, which was a very good feature. But if it was like in a house usually, or, well, saying that, you put loads of them on one zone in a house. If it was just 1 PIR on one zone, you just have it in the normal mode. So really, they don't recommend you put multiple devices on one zone nowadays, which I can understand and fully agree with, because if something does go wrong, it's very hard to find the faulty device. But yeah, I thought I'd do a video on this. And I'll probably do a video powering it up, and we'll see if it works, and we'll see if the LED comes on. Yeah, so I'll put it back together. what I'll do, I'll show you it, because I've just realised there's a PIR in the corner of this room, so I'll put it under that one so you can see the size of the thing compared. Right. So there's two little things, and that cover clips into there like that. There we go. That's back together. I won't put that on because it'll just fall off. But yeah, I'll do a video powering it up. I had to show you this. I couldn't resist. I thought, what an amazing thing. I was thinking about getting an old plywood board and putting all my vintage detectors on it, just because it's my interest, and wiring them all up so that when you walk past, all the LEDs come on. But I thought about it, and I don't have enough old vintage PIRs, but because alarms, I do alarms an awful lot now. I've always done them, but now I'm really doing them a lot. There's loads of jobs coming up, and I'm constantly removing old PIRs. So I save any of the old and interesting ones and the vintage ones. So as I get more and more, I may put them all on the board and have a little demonstration board of old vintage PIRs. But yeah, I'd be shocked if I walked into someone's house and saw that on the wall. I don't know what these would have sold for back in the day. With it being Duotec and one of the very first Duotec detectors, probably very expensive. But I've never seen one before in real life. I've never seen a photo of one ever. I didn't know this detector existed until someone started selling them on eBay. So what I'll do is I'll pick you up on the tripod and show you. Here's a PIR. That's not Duotec, that's just a PIR, single PIR. That is a modern one. I've no idea what brand it is. It's been ages since I installed the alarm in this house. And the wire just goes down there. But this room's being plastered soon, so that wire will be hidden in the wall. But for now it's not. So I will just show you, compared to a modern PIR, the size of this one. It's ridiculous, that, isn't it? That's square now. So that's how you would. I don't want to let go so it falls, but I want you to get the full picture. That's the size difference. It's ridiculous, that. You can't really see down the back, but you get all sorts of cobwebs and insects living behind there, and that big gap. It's a big clunky thing. You see, in this room, if you were to put that up there, it would stick out like a sore thumb. It really would. But I thought it was a very interesting thing that I wanted to show you all. I'll just take that back down before I drop it and break it. You couldn't, as nice as it is to have, you couldn't install that nowadays. I've just bought a few because, as I said, I like old tech, especially old alarm tech, and it was something that interests me. And like I said, I'll put power to it and do a video with it working, switched on. But I would never install something like this these days, but it's nice to have. So that is that concludes the video on the on the Duotector indoor pulse operating passive infrared and microwave motion detector NJF4089. So thank you for watching this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.